Hello. We are going to start today with updates on Yemen. Yemen was the country we talked about in the Middle East that is currently in a civil war. We have a group of rebels called the Houthi rebels who are fighting against their government, but they have allies. They have the country of Iran supporting them. Now, the Houthis and Iran are both from the same branch of Islam, the Shia branch of Islam. The Yemeni government and its ally, Saudi Arabia, are from the Sunni branch of Islam. So this is sort of a religious conflict within Yemen. The Houthi rebels have been very successful. They've taken over huge chunks of the country. The Houthi rebels in Iran do not like the United States. And over the past few months, they've been firing rockets at U.S. ships in the ocean off the coast, hitting U.S. ships, risking damaging trading vessels. Last night, the U.S. says that Houthi has crossed a line. The U.S. and the United Kingdom have led bombing strikes against Houthi bases in Yemen. There have been lots of widespread strikes throughout the country targeting these rebels, terrorists, military leaders, their weapon sites, all that stuff. And there's a lot of fear that this might escalate things in Yemen and draw the United States into the conflict. Now, it's only been 12 hours since the airstrike, so no one's really sure what will happen. We are going to watch a video to get updates on what's been happening. Here's some pictures of that airstrike hitting in Yemen. We're going to start today's class with a discussion rather than a do now. Using your assignment from yesterday, what do you think is the best solution for the water crisis in Africa? Which one of those 5 solutions, here they are, do you think is best to help the people? The drilled well, the sand dam, rain catchment, spring protection, or hygiene projects? Which one do you think is best and why? We're going to use discussion cards, and you're going to talk with a partner. I want you to focus on your analysis as you're talking. Explain your reason and evidence. Why does it prove you're right? Why is this more important than anything else your partner has to say? The other partner will have the challenge card where you're going to have to disagree. You're going to have to come up with some reason why your opponent is wrong. You can pause the video for this discussion. Our goal today is to talk about some of the war and conflict that's been happening in Africa in the past few decades. To understand it, we're going to have to go back a few hundred years, though. Now, before Europeans showed up, African tribes, countries, nations, empires all existed. They had their own militaries, their own countries, their own conflicts, their own allies, trading partners, everything. But when the Europeans conquered, they cut up the continent to borders that they wanted, not the borders that already existed. What happens is that modern day countries are based on the European plan, not the original plan. So modern day nations in Africa are a mix of lots of different groups of people who don't see themselves united as one country, but rather a group of people all shoved together. And this is going to lead to lots of conflict. If we look at this map on the left, this is what people believed the continent looked like before Europeans tried to conquer. You can see there are several nations and groups of people within this continent, far more than there are today. When Europeans took over, this is what they created. You can see a lot of the lines they drew don't match where the tribes of people actually lived. So if we look at Sudan, a country we talked about that has lots of warfare, they've got 5 or 6 different groups of people all shoved within their country. When you put all of them together, they didn't all get along. They all see themselves as different people, and they're fighting for power and control. Some groups of people got split across multiple countries. Now they want to unite as one and create their own country. All this leads to lots of conflict. This is just one of the reasons for conflict in Africa. Also, many countries in Africa are controlled by dictators or their military, and dictators tend to be more violent, more likely to go to war. Different ethnicities fighting for control and power, but also oppression. The group that is in power often oppresses other groups and puts them down and keeps them from getting their own rights and freedoms. We talked few days ago about how there's genocide, where there's an attempt to kill entire groups of people. The end result is lots of civil wars, lots of war, lots of conflict. This map is showing the number of wars each country has had since 1950. You can see most of them have had several. Only a handful have had no wars. For reference, the United States has had four major wars in this time. So that would put them in the red. You can see there are several countries in Africa that have significantly more wars than that. This is a more modern map showing countries that had not necessarily a war, but escalated conflict in 2023 is in red. So you can see several countries. Yellow are countries that are in danger of another military conflict in the coming year. These are countries that the United Nations is putting on warning that could potentially lead to conflict. Today we're going to look mostly at the soldiers involved, and something that happens a lot in these African wars is child soldiers. So often children are recruited to go fight these wars, and for a lot of reasons. Children are easy to manipulate. They're easy to rally behind a cause, be willing to do something risky to go fight for something. They don't always understand the consequences of their actions. They hear stories of war heroes and want to become them. So children are being manipulated into fighting for causes that they think are good, but in reality are not. Also, children are really cheap. You don't have to pay them as much. They don't require as much. And when they die, it's not as big of a deal. A lot of children are kidnapped. A lot of the children are orphans, and they're being forced into this by someone threatening to kill them or their family, maybe. Obviously, this is going to result in a numerous amount of health issues for these children, starting off with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of these children who survived the war really struggle to live normal lives afterwards. A lot of them stay in the military forever, are very violent, dangerous. Those who do reform struggle to lead normal lives because they're dealing with all this trauma. Obviously, there's loss of limb, injuries that never truly heal, physical injuries. Plus, there have been uses of like chemical weapons, so the effects on lungs, on internal organs is also pretty severe. Here's some pictures of child soldiers. Several countries, Congo, Sierra Leone are the two major ones we're going to talk about today. Pretty crazy. Kids who aren't even old enough to go to Summit Academy are often brought into war. Got a couple videos we're going to watch today. You can pause this video while we watch it all class. Your goal today is to read another story about a child soldier in Sierra Leone. And then you're going to create what we call an I am poem. Now I have a list of sentence stems that all start with things like I am blank, I think blank, I feel blank, I hear blank, I see blank. You have to fill in all those blanks. All right, and what ends up being is a poem. It doesn't have to rhyme, but the deal is you can't repeat any lines. You need to come up with something new. What would it be like to be a child soldier? What do they see? What do they hear? What do they think or feel? All right. If you have any questions, let me know.